What's up, y'all? It's J. Calderon, Stand Clear Entertainment, and we're about to get into this week's boxing talk. This Saturday, March the 5th, is the return of Cuban heavyweight sensation, undefeated Luis the Real King Kong Ortiz, defending his WBA interim heavyweight title against veteran Tony the Tiger Thompson. Now, this is a fight right here that's just basically a stay busy fight for Ortiz, as he's been having trouble nailing down opponents to face him in the ring. Now, Tony Thompson, he's basically a heavyweight gatekeeper. He's the guy that has faced a lot of guys that have been coming up in the boxing rankings, and he's a very tough guy, a solid heavyweight, but he's not expected to win this fight. He's expected to give rounds to Ortiz. Ortiz is knocking guys out and blowing guys left to right. Now, in his last performance, he was able to dominate and knock out in impressive fashion against Brian Jennings. And now, this fight is being looked upon as a step back, but Ortiz is definitely just trying to stay busy. And Tony Thompson is a guy that's going to give him rounds. He has a pretty solid chin. He's only been knocked out by one man in the heavyweight division throughout his career, and that's against Vladimir Klitschko, who knocked him out twice in the 11th round the first time they fought, and in the rematch in the 6th round. So everybody's going to be measuring up Luis Ortiz's performance against Klitschko's performance to see if he could blow out the old man quicker and in more dramatic fashion. And that's what is expected of him. But I expect Ortiz to go several rounds with the tough veteran warrior in Tony Thompson, because Thompson fighting in his backyard of Washington, D.C. in front of the hometown fans, and he's going to try to put on his best performance, but I don't expect him to win. I expect it to be a late round stoppage, or possibly even go the distance and give the rounds that he needs to work on his craft, because the man has very good boxing skills and he is a definite threat in the heavyweight division. Now, also, Golden Boy has been saying that he is possibly going to be fighting on the undercard of Canelo Alvarez and Amir Khan on May the 7th. It's a great stage to be fighting on. It's going to be in Las Vegas, and it's also going to be on pay-per-view, so it's a very good stage for Luis Ortiz to get a lot of exposure on as one of the biggest heavyweights on the rise. Now, who would he be facing on that undercard fight? We don't know yet. Golden Boy has been having a lot of difficulty lining up opponents to face him. But one fight that's going to be taking place this weekend as well is also undefeated heavyweight on the rise, Lucas Browne, who's taking on his biggest step of his career when he takes on the WBA secondary title holder in the heavyweight division, which is Ruslan Shishev. Now, that's a very big step up for Lucas Browne. It's going to be a good fight, and I expect Lucas Browne to come out victorious in that fight and win the title. And if he does, he's definitely going to be lining up against Luis Ortiz later on this year. But hopefully they can make that fight in May for the undercard of Khan and Canelo, because that's a great matchup between two undefeated fighters. They're basically around the same age, at the age of 36 years old, so they don't have a lot of time to make an impact in the heavyweight division. But these are two very good punchers with very good skills, and it's a great matchup to be made. So we have to wait and see what goes down and who's going to be Luis Ortiz's next opponent in May 7th. Now, also moving along on that card in Washington, D.C., yours truly will be there ringside to watch this fight. You're going to have the showdown for the WBO vacant welterweight title at 147 pounds between Brooklyn's own Sadam Ali taking on Jessie Vargas. Now, this is a fight right here that's going to be a very good fight. I expect it to be a very highly entertaining fight, and don't sleep on Jessie Vargas. I'm telling you right now, Jessie Vargas has faced better competition than Sadam Ali. He's a tough Mexican fighter, a Mexican-American fighter, and he's going to come to bring it. You know, he doesn't have a lot of punching power, but he has a lot of heart. He comes to fight. And he was able to hurt Timothy Bradley in that 12th and final round, you know, and for a guy that doesn't have a lot of power, Timothy Bradley was definitely hurt in that fight and was in very big trouble. And the referee kind of interrupted the flow, and you know, Jessie Vargas likes to argue that he was going to stop him. There wasn't enough time for him to stop Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley is a very tough tough guy, and he was not going to get knocked out that night. So the WBO has granted Jessie Vargas another title shot this weekend, which is a title shot that I don't think he deserves, but nevertheless, he's going to get his opportunity against Sadam Ali. Sadam Ali is the favorite. He's the undefeated fighter. He's the young guy that's on the rise, and I like Sadam Ali. He's from Brooklyn, and I'm going for him. Sadam Ali has the quicker hands. He has the more better punching power, and he has good skills. But he has some defensive flaws. And I believe that Jessie Vargas is going to give him one hell of a fight. I expect this fight to be a very close fight and an even match fight to the end. And it might go to decision or it could be a stoppage. But I'm looking for a 12th round close split decision victory for Sadam Ali. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jessie Vargas is victorious in this fight because he has a great chance. Now, we're going to take a recap over the fights that took place this weekend. First, the much anticipated showdown in England when we had Carl the Jackal Frampton versus Scott Quigg. Now, this was a fight that did not live up to the hype. The atmosphere was amazing. There was over 20,000 plus fans there. The hype to this fight was too big. Just like Mayweather and Pacquiao, it didn't live up to the hype like many other fights in the past. Trinidad versus De La Hoya. I mean, Carl Frampton put on a great display of boxing skills. He was able to outbox Scott Quigg. Quigg did not do anything in this fight. He did not let his hands go. It wasn't until the 11th round when Quigg started to let his hands go and he started to put on that pressure and land some very good shots on Carl Frampton. Frampton was able to land a shot and break the jaw of Scott Quigg. Who knows if that was an effect in the fight why Scott Quigg did not press on a little bit earlier in the fight, but the fight didn't get heated up until the late rounds. It was too little, too late for Scott Quigg. The fight wasn't even close. A lot of people saying that it could have been a draw. Nonsense. This fight was a one-sided victory for Carl Frampton, and he won by split decision. He is now the unified WBA, IBF, super bantamweight champion at 122 pounds. My hat's off to the Jackal. He's a very good fighter. I've been following his career for quite some time. I like the Jackal a lot, and I wish that he will face the #1 guy in the division, the king of the division, which is Guillermo Rigondeaux. But I highly doubt that that fight is actually going to take place at all. I see Carl Frampton moving up in weight to 126 pounds to the featherweight division and taking on Leo Santa Cruz. That's a fight that's been building up now for about a year. That's been in the workings with Al Heyman. That fight is a fight that they definitely have wanted for quite some time, and I expect that fight to take place. Also, Leo Santa Cruz fought later on that evening in one of the best fights of the evening against Kiko Martinez. It was a highly entertaining fight. My hat's off to Kiko Martinez. Martinez put on a courageous, tough performance. He was very game in that fight, but he was overmatched by the younger, bigger, stronger fighter in Leo Santa Cruz, who dropped him several times and had him hurt and was dominating the fight and stopped him in the 5th round.
The arms, but Martinez shelling up.
See, he's not smothering it.
The crowd anticipating another fantastic finish, and the referee steps in. Leo Santa Cruz stops a gutsy Kiko Martinez.
He called out Carl Frampton at the end of the fight as well, and these guys are on a collision course for a big showdown later on this year, and I can't wait for that fight. That's a great matchup. Now, also, on the undercard of Leo Santa Cruz was a rematch between two Mexican warriors that put on a great fight in 2015. And the rematch was a great surprise when Hugo Ruiz knocked out Julio Cesar. It was a punch that put Cesar down. He was in big trouble, really hurt on his feet, and the referee stopped the fight. A total shocker, a blowout in the 1st round for Hugo Ruiz, who is now the WBC super bantamweight champion at 122 pounds. And I expect that this fight will be a trilogy like I called it the first time, because these guys had devastating victories against each other. It's 1-1, and we're looking for the trilogy, the 3rd fight between these two, because these guys are very big punchers and very good fighters, and we expect another great victory win from one of these two guys later on in the year. Now, HBO also had their fights on, and that was Puerto Rican sensation Felix Verdejo stepping into the ring against his Brazilian undefeated fighter. It wasn't a great fight. It was a dominating performance by Verdejo. He looked very quick in there, looked very sharp. His boxing skills were on point. He was landing the jab, and he was also moving very well in that fight and showing great defense. His punching power, he wasn't able to land those big hard shots like he landed in previous fights because his opponent was a very good defensive fighter. This man had a very high guard, that winky right type high guard, and he had good defense but didn't produce any offense whatsoever. We didn't see anything from William Silva. He was able to survive throughout this fight without putting up much of a fight, so it was kind of a boring fight for fight fans. But Felix Verdejo got the victory. He got the rounds in that he needed. He moves on to bigger and better things. He has a date up in April, perhaps in Puerto Rico. Hopefully they get him a better fighter. Now also, the main event of that evening was Terence Crawford and an outstanding performance against Hank Lundy. This fight right here started off fast-paced with Lundy looking really good and sharp in the first round, landing some very good shots on Terence Crawford. Looked like it was going to be an excellent fight, but Crawford early on from the third round on took over this fight and he started just beating on Hank Lundy. You could see that he was overmatched by Terence Crawford, the bigger man. Crawford was just too big for Lundy. Lundy had no business being in the ring with Terence Crawford. He was dropped. He was hurt. The referee asked him if he was okay. Lundy was not all right in this fight, and he gave him even a little bit more time where Crawford was able to wail away and stop his man in impressive fashion.
Are you all right? Look at me.
Once again, Terence Crawford showing that he is the best junior welterweight in the world at 140 pounds. We hope that the Victor Postol fight is now going to be lined up next for Terence Crawford, because that's the fight that the fight fans want to see. As for Hank Lundy, I believe that he should move down to 135 pounds where he once came from in the lightweight division, because he's a guy that should be fighting a guy like Felix Verdejo. That's a fight that I've been advocating for quite some time. I would love to see Hank Lundy versus Felix Verdejo, because guys like Robert Easter Jr., who's also a lightweight at 135 pounds, is getting the opportunity to face better competition than Felix Verdejo as he fights on Augie Mendez, a former world champion, in his next fight on April the 1st. So, you know, it's time for Felix Verdejo to step up. It's time for Terence Crawford to get a big fight opportunity against Victor Postol. We would love to see the Adrian Browne fight, but right now that fight is not possible. So my hat's off to these gentlemen that all won this weekend. It was a great night of boxing for boxing fans all across the world. I thank everybody for watching me on YouTube. Please subscribe to this channel right here, J. Calderon Boxing Talk. Also follow me on Instagram and on Facebook. Join that Facebook boxing group page, J. Calderon Boxing Talk. I'm J. Calderon, Stand Clear Entertainment. Thanks for your support. Keep watching and subscribe.